Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a review, reaction, whatever you want to call it, of episode 7 of Riverdale. I told y'all I was gonna make a Riverdale video, so here it is. Let's start with Hiram Lodge becoming mayor and canceling the Thanksgiving dinner that Archie was throwing for the underprivileged youth that comes to his community center. Basically, he was having this big old Thanksgiving dinner for these kids and he was going to leave the center open all night. But Archie went into his community center one day and before he went in, he and Mad Dog, because I can't remember his actual name, him and Mad Dog found Dodger wrapped up in a carpet all bloody. And we know that Archie asked Hiram for help with Dodger. So what I think happened is Hiram helping Archie, even though he said he wouldn't, beat up Dodger and put Archie in this impossible situation. So Dodger ends up in the hospital because Archie calls the police and the ambulance and they take him to the hospital. So Hiram also cancels the Thanksgiving at the community center because he thinks that, well, he doesn't think, he says that it's still like a crime scene and all the nonsense that he had. And he had none other than JP tell Archie that Thanksgiving is canceled. And knowing JP doesn't want to actually work for Hiram, he's just like, fuck it. Open it for Thanksgiving, do what you want. So that's what they do. They leave the center open for Thanksgiving. Meanwhile, Betty and Jughead, because Betty is Jughead's ride or die, no doubt about that. Betty and Jughead are trying to figure out the whole secret society and why Mr. Chipper killed himself. And so Betty comes over for the weekend or the week because they're on Thanksgiving break. She goes over to the school, you know, the dorms, and she stays with Jughead. And they're figuring out the whole, because they figured out that Jughead's grandpa wrote the first book in the series that he's so obsessed with. He wrote the first book. And Mr. Chipper, I forgot to mention this, guys, Mr. Chipper fucking dived out of the fucking window in the middle of class, and guess what? Nobody was trying to help him or call the police except for Jughead. It was a mess. He literally dived out of the window. He's like, I'm sorry I couldn't help you, Jughead. And he dived out of the window. And Jughead figured out that he was in some secret society, the same secret society as DuPont, who coincidentally took over the class after Mr. Chipper died. So DuPont, who Jughead confronted last episode about him lying and taking credit for the first book when it was Jughead's grandpa who actually wrote the first book. He's now DuPont now took over the class, and Jughead believes that DuPont has something with Mr. Chipper's murder, because it looked like suicide, but he knows that there was a reason Mr. Chipper jumped out of the window. So basically Betty and Jughead are trying to figure that out. So they stay at the school, but they don't know that Brett and Donna also stay. So Brett and Donna try to play a trick on them or whatever, and it doesn't end up well. Brett gets stitches from Betty and they play this game. So Betty and Jughead try to distract Donna and Brett while Betty sneaks into Donna's room. Let me tell you guys. So Betty sneaks into Donna's room and she finds Mr. Chipper's pin that he wears on his jackets. And that's when she confronts them and she's just like, why do you have Mr. Chipper's button? Is it because you're trying to cover up his suicide murder? And so Donna starts crying, and she says this, she's like, oh, we had a relationship, Mr. Chipper and I threatened to tell the headmaster and he got upset. And I'm just like, the whole time I'm thinking, this is bullshit. Because my thing is, I think, these are just my theories, I think that her and Brett are covering up what actually happened with Mr. Chipper. I think he was coerced into committing suicide because they knew secrets about him, or they were blackmailing him. And I don't particularly think that affair between him and Donna was it, or even if there was an affair. I don't even think that there was an affair. I think she pulled this story out of her ass to cover up what really happened to Mr. Chipper. And so she tells this shitty cop-out story to to Betty, and Betty tells Jughead that she doesn't think that's the entire truth. And I was thinking the whole time that I bet you it's not. And I was thinking the whole time that it's actually not. Before Betty even told him that's what she thought, I was like, this is bullshit. She's full of shit. That school is full of shit. That headmaster is full of shit. And if I were Jughead, I would have left after the first day after the time they put him in the coffin and like buried him alive. I would have left after that. That would have been the end. I would have been gone. But for some reason, he stuck around with these crazy ass motherfuckers. A mess. Meanwhile, Cheryl and Tony still have Cheryl's brother Jason in that damn wheelchair, like dug up from the ground. So fucking weird to me. And so her aunt and uncle come and they want to sell her family's part of the maple business because they think it's costing them a lot of money and they're not really making as much as they used to. And she's kind of agreeing, and she says she's gonna think it over. And then they mention going into the chapel where she keeps Jason's dead body in the wheelchair, and she gets so upset. And I'm just like, girl, you just gave yourself away. If you hadn't reacted the way you did about them going into the chapel, they would have never thought to look at the chapel, to want to go down into the chapel and see what you're hiding. Why couldn't she just suggest another place for them to visit in the house? She just gave away all her cards basically. So she got upset and she told them to leave and never come back. They left, and her uncle came back and he found Jason in the wheelchair down in the chapel with Julian the doll on his lap. And he basically pushes Tony, and he tries to like choke Cheryl and kill her. So Tony knocks him over the head, and now they've murdered her uncle. These are some killing kids. I'm telling you, like, how are they graduating high school? Like, how are they able to focus on high school when all this craziness is going on? Because the TV show, Erica, I know, but still, it's bananas. So, Cheryl and Tony, they devise this way to get the aunt to stop looking for the uncle and to stop trying to sell her part of the maple business. And they concoct this wild story about grinding up the uncle and putting him in the meat pies that they eat at their dinner. And so the cousin is eating the meat pie, and he like chews on the father's ring, and he pulls it out of his mouth, and he's like, oh my god, this is the uncle's ring, or this is my father's ring, or whatever. And they concoct this crazy story that, and Nana Blossom is in on it, and she's just like, yeah, the Blossoms used to be cannibals, and it was the grossest story ever. So she makes them believe that they're eating the uncle. She makes the cousin and the aunt believe that they're eating the uncle. And she tells them that if they ever come back here, she's gonna let everyone know that the Blossom family is cannibals and that they ate their uncle. And so the aunt and the cousin, they leave. They're gone, doubt they're coming back, and she wants to bury the uncle in the Sweetwater River, and it's gonna freeze over because there's a snowstorm. Bananas, I know. My thing is, the whole Julian situation is so freaking creepy to me, and I want it to end because I'm not a fan. It's just so creepy, and they make it seem like the doll is really going to come to life and like do something. And I think it's creepy that she has a doll, and I think it's creepy that this Jason, digging Jason up and keeping him in a house this long, seems really weird to me. And what's weirder to me is that Tony is going along with it. Like, I know she loves her, but like, this is like crossing a line. It's kind of mentally like something's not right up there, and I know she loved her brother, but this is like extreme craziness. She dug up his body. Like, come on. It's weird. And meanwhile, back to the community center Thanksgiving. So the community center Thanksgiving is happening. The community center kids are there, and lo and behold, Dodger's family visits him at the hospital. They decide to go to the community center because they think one of the people there hurt Dodger. So they go to the freaking community center for Thanksgiving, and Archie invites them in. He's like, you guys can stay for dinner. It's gonna be great. It'll be served soon. And of course he doesn't know that that's Dodger's family until one of the kids tells him, that's Dodger's. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry, that was a burp. That's Dodger's family. And of course, violence ensues because his mom is upset that someone hurt Dodger, her son. So she grabs one of the kids when they're about to grab, because she puts her gun on the table and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna figure out which one of you hurt Dodger. And so they're eating dinner, and one of the kids brings her a pie, and he sees the gun on the table and goes to grab it. And that's when they grab him, and Mad Dog and Archie stand up and they try to protect the kid, and they move him out of the way. And then she's like, which one of you hurt my son? Archie, always the fucking hero, steps up, and she's like, get down and admit that you did it. And he's about to admit and confess, even though I know he didn't do it. I have a feeling that he didn't do it. I definitely think this was all Hiram, and Hiram is definitely back on his bullshit. And of course Archie's like getting down on his knees, he's about to confess, and the kids start confessing. He's like, guys, stop. And so she puts the gun in front of his head and she's like, confess. And all of a sudden the deep fried turkey, because they're deep frying a turkey in remembrance of his Archie's dad, because that's what he used to do, the turkey like explodes out of the pot, and she gets distracted, and Archie like pushes her, and Archie's mom grabs the gun, and Veronica stabs one of the guys in the hand with a turkey knife pitchfork thing, and everyone's fighting everybody. And then Archie's mom pulls out the gun and she's like, you have 5 seconds to get out of here, I'm gonna kill you, or some crazy shit like that. And they leave, and they're like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. And I'm just thinking the whole time, Archie's mom is part of the gang now. Like, she's ride or die. She's here to stay. She's not leaving. And I enjoy it. I love his mom. So all that's ensued, and they're like promising to come back and get Archie. And I'm just thinking, come on, y'all. We knew this was gonna happen. It's Dodger's family. But, yeah. And I forgot to mention that Dodger shot up his house with his mom and him in it, and that's just the whole reason he went to Hiram for help in the first place. And Hiram definitely beat Dodger up, or Hiram hired somebody, because you know Hiram doesn't do his own dirty work. He hired someone to beat Dodger up. This is not what actually happened in the episode, the hiring to beat Dodger up, but these are my theories that Hiram hired someone to beat Dodger up. Anyways, moving on. Thanksgiving was a success. Even after all the shooting, even after all the threatening and the criminals coming into the community center. So his mom tells him that was the best Thanksgiving I've had. Not the best Thanksgiving, but that was a really good Thanksgiving. That was an interesting one. It was crazy, and she was like really excited to be there and be part of the gang. So they have this beautiful ceremony, and she's like, I think, this is before the ceremony, she's like, I think that turkey exploding was your father protecting us. And he's like, I agree, that's why I want to do this. Skip ahead to the ceremony where they named the community center after Archie's dad, and I thought it was cute. I didn't get teary-eyed because I kind of already did my teary-eyed thing when his dad died, and they did the whole ceremony on the first episode, like the funeral. But it was really nice that he named the community center after his dad. I enjoyed that part. But yeah, I'm excited to see like what kind of things happen and how his mom gets more involved in the family, like in the community type thing. But yeah, Lastly, I'm very excited to see Veronica and her sister, this dynamic. I don't want to say she's jealous of her sister, but her father is playing them against each other, I think. And I want to see it to what end. So I'm very excited to see what happens with that whole situation. That's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you love the video and you want to see more. It would mean the world to me. Let me know in the comments if you watched the episode and who your favorite is and what you think's gonna happen, and let me know if you like this video. I post Monday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. If you guys are interested, just subscribe or just even check back here now and then to see if I've talked about an episode that you guys really enjoyed. And I'll see you guys on Friday in my next video. Bye.